Well, thank you, Allison, and thank you for your support in putting us in touch and in contact with REC members this evening. I want to welcome all of the co-op members to this evening's call. I am delighted that you have taken the time to join myself and our board chairman, Chris Shipe. We are excited to speak with you. I hope that you have been able to stay safe this past week during the heat wave, the heat dome, if you will, that has brought triple-digit temperatures to our region and much of this part of the country. It has certainly tested air conditioners. It has tested the power grid, and we're pleased thus far at how the grid has held up and how the REC infrastructure has held up. You know, if you look back just over the 2025 window thus far, we had record-setting cold spell and cold temperatures in January, and now we already have record heat that we're experiencing in our region. So tonight I'm going to be providing some updates, and then really just delighted that Chairman Shipe is on the call with us. He's going to provide some comments as well. Now, I just want to, kind of level set here. We conduct these Power Hour collaborations throughout the year to keep you, our members, informed about the co-op and the changing energy landscape. Tonight's objective is to provide you some updates and then focus on your comments and questions. And I know Allison went through how to get in the queue for the questions. After I conclude my opening remarks and some updates, I'm going to turn to Chairman Shipe, and he's going to speak for a few moments about the 2025 REC Board of Director elections. Now, throughout this past year here at the co-op, we have focused on accountability, reliability, and readiness. We have faced all of those so far this year. I want to emphasize our commitment. Everything we are doing here at REC at the co-op is rooted in serving you. We think of safety, we think of reliability, we think of the cost, we think of the benefits, and then we think of ways to offset the costs so that we can get the job done as economical and as efficient on your behalf. And we couldn't do what we do without the strength of a very strong team. I want to take just a moment to thank the nearly 500 employees of REC and its affiliates. I'll speak about a couple of our affiliates this evening. I'm extremely grateful for their continuous responsiveness, the yellow truck responsiveness, the care that you receive when you call in with a member issue, and everything that they do to serve in the community and keep the co-op powered up. So I'm going to start this evening's conversation with a discussion about reliability. I'll look back just a little bit to 2024. We had a big year in 2024 focusing on the core work that we do. Your co-op operates over 18,000 miles of energized power lines that would stretch roughly from here to Australia and back, right? We have about 10 member accounts per mile to give you an idea of the density. In 2024, we undertook our third consecutive year of comprehensive drone inspections of the overhead system. We inspected over 34,800 poles, collecting over 718,000 images, up-close, high-resolution images of the structures to look for wear and tear, decay, cracks in insulators, any type of safety hazard, any type of issue. For the most urgent issues, we roll trucks immediately. For other issues, we document those for future systematic follow-up. Last year, we cleared over 1,300 miles of right-of-way through various vegetation practices. We finished another year last year of using satellite imagery to look at the tree canopy. This year will be the final year in a sweep of the whole system using that satellite technology. And in the past year, we've removed over 6,000 hazard trees that were identified through satellite technology, showing us trees that are dying or decaying, whether they're in the right-of-way or predominantly off the right-of-way. Last year, we added over 2,000 transformers, over 9,000 animal guards, which are placed on top of transformers, and something that we call cutouts, which are devices kind of like fuses, if you will, on the overhead power system. And those are designed to both look out for the environment and the animal contact, but also to protect reliability. Now, looking ahead, this year we intend to, and we're underway, inspecting over 40,000 of these overhead structures, and we are conducting extensive vegetation management into 2025. Last year, in 2024, your co-op safely delivered over 4 billion kilowatt hours, and as of June, year to date, we are ahead of that schedule, given that frigid January that I spoke of and what's transpiring already this week with the heat wave. We believe we'll be more than 100 million kilowatt hours ahead of where we were last year in terms of energy delivery. That's a lot to ask the grid to achieve, and I'm happy to say that REC's infrastructure has held up well. Now, moving towards affordability. Certainly nationally in Virginia and around, we see the cost of power rising through inflation and some of the issues that are happening in the energy markets. I'll speak of that a little bit later. Today, though, I am happy to say that in context, the average cost of REC power is under $7 a day for a typical home. And I think that's something to keep in mind, the value that we get in electricity to this day, notwithstanding the fact that we do know and we do experience it is going up nationally and across the Commonwealth. To help offset cost in 2024, your board of directors voted to return $3.65 million in capital credits back to the members. And this year, the board more than doubled that with an $8.1 million cashback credit, which will appear on the July power bills. Additionally, talking about other ways to offset cost, the co-op pursued competitively and was awarded $45.6 million in state and federal grants last year that we are in progress with at the present time. Now, I mentioned our affiliates. One of those is Brilliant, as in Brilliant IT. Brilliant is an IT, cyber services, and data analytics company that first and foremost provides REC comprehensive IT support, looking out for our cybersecurity, making sure that REC has the computerized software and equipment that it needs. But in establishing that team and the strength that was going to be needed to serve REC, we were able to leverage that, and Brilliant is now active in 16 states and is growing, serving other electric co-ops with data analytics and cyber support. And that goal is to generate external revenue, bring that back to you, the member owners, and work to reduce and offset REC's cost of its IT and computer systems. That's, again, another way we're looking to offset costs. In terms of growth, last year we added over 4,400 new member accounts to the grid. That was a very interesting and strong mix of residential, commercial, and large-scale industrial and large accounts as well. We participated in many economic development partnerships and specific projects, including the Trader Joe's delivery point or distribution center, Trader Joe's distribution center, working with Unilock, working with the Kalahari Resort off of I-95 for those that have been through that part of the region recently. And through May of this year, at the end of May of this year, we had already connected over 1,800 new meters to the system. We brought on online four substations as well over this time frame. We've been not only expanding the grid and working to meet regional and member growth, but we're on certain enhancements and technologies. Through the end of last year, we had installed over 2,500 miles of fiber optic cables. We have grown our pole attachments to over 70,000 pole attachments, working with other internet service providers to leverage REC's grid to attach so that they can extend broadband services out to the region. And we have specifically been engaged working with Firefly to directly enable broadband for over 9,000 member owners who are now subscribed to that ISP, with about 3,000 more on a sign-up list that are in progress. We're very pleased with the pace of that effort and how it's made a difference in many of our communities. Fiber activity has generated over $5.6 million in lease revenue last year and is helping to offset other system improvements and bring us modernization to the grid to support reliability, security, and a number of future innovations. Now, I mentioned earlier the cost of electricity in the energy markets is on the rise. And what do I mean by the market? Well, I'm referring to the PJM wholesale market. PJM covers 13 states and 65 million consumers, including Virginia. And energy demand in PJM and Virginia is climbing dramatically. The PJM market itself forecasts that demand in Virginia could more than double by the year 2040, and indicates there is a risk of possible power supply shortages as early as next summer. We are watching this closely. I can assure you that myself and the team at REC and our statewide association are very actively engaged with state lawmakers and agency heads to ensure decision makers are well aware of what is transpiring in terms of energy cost and reliability impacts here in Virginia especially. When you look at your monthly power bill, approximately 65% of that reflects power supply cost, which is a pass-through on the bill from our generation and transmission provider and from the energy market. The other 35% of your power bill in general represents the delivery and distribution cost, and I can assure you that REC is being very, very careful working to manage those costs in a wise manner with very healthy and smart planning. Now, one topic that is pretty consistently in the news, there have been just very many economic development announcements, and that is with respect to large loads and particularly data centers here in the REC territory. I had previously reported, and we discussed on the last Power Hour, that REC has launched an affiliate entity called Hyperscale Energy Services. Hyperscale and REC are working together to secure upfront payments and to establish new rates for large data center loads so that REC members are protected. Hyperscale, or Rappahannock, provides the infrastructure, which is prepaid by the data centers, and Hyperscale will be providing the energy services, which are paid by those same members. And Hyperscale's design is to bring benefits to REC members, but also protect REC members in the event that a data center was unable to pay its power bill. One of the things that we have underway right now is a filing in front of the State Corporation Commission for a new delivery rate that bills the data centers based on the installed capacity that they request. Again, that's a measure to protect the membership from making sure that the investment that's being made, that all future operating costs will be recouped. Now, REC is not out recruiting data centers, but in fact we have an obligation to serve every new load, every member in our service territory, from the next residential home or development, the next box store or coffee shop, high school or data center. We have an obligation to serve, and it is our intent to serve the data centers with the same world-class service and responsiveness that we're aiming to serve each of you with. So that's just a little bit about Hyperscale, and we will continue to keep the membership informed on the really unprecedented growth in the area of data centers. Now I'm going to begin to transition to our board chairman, who's on the call tonight. But I just want to say, as we do this, every pole substation innovation is about putting you, the membership, first. We thank you for your trust and the ability to together power forward. And a big part of that is the governance and the direction that comes from REC's board of directors. I can assure you they are deeply engaged in the business. They are asking the tough questions. They are looking at the alternatives. They are pushing staff to make very, very wise decisions in all regards. And I'm very appreciative of our board. And you may be aware that the REC board is a 9-member board of directors led and guided by our chairman, Chris Shipe. So, Chairman Shipe, I'm going to turn to you. Thank you for taking the time to collaborate with the REC members, and looking forward to hearing your comments about the director election coming up.
Well, thank you, John, and good evening. I want to thank all the members for your participation in this Power Hour. As John introduced me, I'm Chris Shipe, and I'm very grateful for the privilege of serving and representing you as a member and chair of the REC board. I live in Region 2, which is primarily Clark, Warren, and Fauquier counties. I believe, and as anyone has talked to me in the past knows, I believe very strongly in the nonprofit, member-focused cooperative business model to deliver essential services like electricity. And I spent my professional career serving in leadership and governance of cooperatives. As REC is a democratically controlled, member-owned cooperative, tonight I wanted to take some time to make sure and remind you of the upcoming REC director elections. Our upcoming annual director elections are a cornerstone of our cooperative governance. Your participation in the proxy designation process shapes REC's direction and, more importantly, our accountability. With the complex operating environment that REC is working in, setting the right strategies to manage reliability, affordability, growth, and grid advancement depend on strong governance. Good, transparent governance and strong strategic leadership at REC will help ensure we manage rising rates, meet growing demands, and keep delivering value to you, our members. Your REC board wants to strongly encourage your participation in the REC Board of Director election process, which will be opening approximately July 1st. We also want to encourage your participation in the REC annual meeting, which will be held on August 20th. To make it convenient for you to participate and to listen to important leadership updates from anywhere, the REC annual meeting is a virtual meeting. So please take time to read the candidate profiles and designate your proxy by the deadline of August 15th. Please also tune into the annual meeting on August 20th. As a reminder, there are multiple ways to participate in the election process, including logging into the MyREC Smart Hub and following the prompts to complete your proxy designation. You can also check your email in early July for a secure link to complete the process online. All members with a valid email on file will receive this proxy message. And if you prefer good old-fashioned paper, simply return the proxy designation form that will be mailed to you in early July. Please be sure to keep an eye out for your proxy information in early July. Your participation in this process drives accountability and ensures our co-op remains responsive, transparent, and resilient. Once again, thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule and participating this evening, and for staying engaged by participating in the annual director election process and our annual meeting on August 20th. Together, we power our future. Back to you, Allison and John.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Chairman Shipe. So very important. Thank you so much, John, before that, for all the information. It is now time to get to your questions, and we've got both of them here to answer it. So quick reminder, press 0 to submit your own. Our first live question of the evening is Donald. He is in Madison. Donald, you're live right now. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much. I really enjoy listening to him, being as I'm an electrician, and I enjoy listening to him. And my question was, how high do they think that the electric bills might go this summer and increase the cost of residential electricity? That's my question.
Donald, first of all, thank you for participating. Glad to hear of your electrical expertise and glad to hear that you find the conversation helpful. So today, if you look at REC's rates, the typical residential account that would use 1,000 kilowatt hours per month, that power bill is right at $162.05. Some members use more than that based on the structure or size of their home. Some may be less, depending on how they operate their thermostat and the envelope of the energy efficiency envelope of the home. As a point of note, that rate is about $10 less than the national average right now across the nation. But your question is around what could happen with energy pricing, and this is so REC. We don't have any rate adjustments planned. Our summertime rates did initiate in June, which kind of emphasizes some of the delivery costs during the summertime. But beyond that, we don't have any rate adjustments planned in the near future. But we are watching the energy markets very, very closely. just this past week, we've seen energy inflate significantly. One of the strategies that we've deployed to help keep costs more stable is that we are a member owner of a G&T, a generation and transmission cooperative known as ODEC, Old Dominion Electric Co-op. And ODEC both buys power out of the wholesale market, but also owns generation assets. That some of that is in partnership with Dominion Energy. So that includes a portion of nuclear energy. It includes natural gas. It includes coal. It includes wind. It includes solar. And ODEC uses the assets on our behalf to operate those as a physical hedge. So our objective in that, while power prices may rise, our objective is to use the physical generation assets to offset some or much of that cost. So we're watching closely. Now, one thing that absolutely will drive up costs will be actual consumption, which is what we saw happen in January as well. And REC was very proactive in January, reaching out to members to work with them on high bills, to give them an opportunity to catch back up. And we intend to do the very same thing as this heat wave that we've been enduring hopefully subsides here in the days ahead. Donald, thank you for your question.
Yes, thanks so much for joining our conversation. Let's go right away to our next question from Pamela before we have Kurt. Great questions coming in. Pamela in Orange. Right now, you're live. Please go ahead with your question.
Hey, John. My question is, you talked a lot about IT and Brilliant, and I was just wondering about security. It's security at your meters. Do you radio read your meters, and what are you doing in case there's cyber attacks or, the state of the world is today, or an attack on your infrastructure and on your grid? Are you investing in SCADA and GIS for anything like that? You didn't seem to mention that area, so I was just curious about how you guys would know if you had, an attack, either on your network, I guess, or in the field or at your station.
Yep, Pamela, great question. Yes, we have a number of technologies. The bulk of the REC meters today are read through an encrypted power line carrier system. We do have plans for additional radio frequency, fully encrypted metering deployment. We do operate a SCADA system. For those on the call that don't know what a SCADA system is, it's a supervisory control and data acquisition system, but it's basically a central computer. It's an operational system that allows us to communicate and control the electrical substations and some of the downline equipment. We do also have a GIS system, which is a geographical information system, and really a number of other platforms. So your question really kind of was aimed at kind of technology adoption, and all this is part of kind of a larger technology planning effort, but we are extremely focused on cybersecurity, both the hardware to protect the system, the softwares to protect the system, the third-party services, the culture of our team with regard to how we handle emails and being alert, but also Brilliant, our national, local, and national IT company that is self-serving us. One of the services that Brilliant provides is 24-hour a day, 7-day a week managed detection services. And so we run a lot of penetration testing. We run a lot of simulations. We have offensive security specialists. We have certified ethical hackers. These are team members that are basically trying to kind of find vulnerabilities in our own system, and we're doing that as well for the other co-ops and utilities that we help manage. So, Pamela, I hope that answers your question. We do have a lot of technology. We are very careful on the technology that we procure, where it is sourced from, and how it is scrubbed, if you will, to make sure that it is free of any type of cyber vulnerability. And this is definitely a national issue as well, and we are following, tracking, and engaging at the state and federal level with a number of cyber, collaborations that are occurring at any given time. So I hope that answers your question. And Pamela, thank you for being on the call tonight.
Yes, great conversation starter. Thank you so much, and thank you, John. All right, we have Kurt before Karen and Ron and Justin. Kurt in Stevens County, you're live right now. Please go ahead with your question. Kurt, are you
Hello?
there? You might have us on mute.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Kurt.
No, I'm fine. So my question pertains to power consumption, resilience, and pricing. I appreciate your availability. We live in Stevens City, unincorporated Frederick County. And in my research about data centers on June 3rd, I came across the Bloomberg News story that identified that some $9.4 billion had been shifted from data centers onto residential and small business customers in Maryland and in Virginia. I realize that from the foregoing conversation that you're anticipating this to be a bigger issue. I see that Louisa was just announced for a new data center. But it appears, at least according to Bloomberg, that the price shifting has already occurred and that we're actually, as residential customers, subsidizing data centers. Can you speak to that and how we might be able to make sure that we don't inadvertently end up subsidizing the wealthiest companies in the world?
Kurt, thank you for being on. Great question, and thank you for being a member in Stevens City. Fantastic question. It's something that's on the minds of a lot of our members and has been a very significant conversation at the State Corporation Commission. A year ago, when we filed the original style of our use for hyperscale energy, at first the Commission couldn't find a way in the Virginia law to allow us to do what we wanted to do with hyperscale, and I'll explain that just a bit more. So we went to the General Assembly and actually had the law changed. But in the midst of that, the State Commission conducted a technical conference back in December, and I was allowed to be the first speaker on the lineup for that technical conference. And I want to assure you that, I've had the benefit of working in a few other. I've worked before in PJM, but I also was in ERCOT in Texas and in the TVA region for a time. And one of the things that we've got to be extremely careful about are what happens with energy volatility. So a couple of things that we're doing. First, REC, the traditional co-op, if you will, owns and installs the data center infrastructure, which is predominantly direct serve substations that are dedicated to those members, those large-scale member customers. Those are built, constructed, designed on a prepayment basis. The data center investor, developer pays the co-op. We start ordering material and equipment. We begin construction. They pay us along the way, and then we have a true-up at the end where we make sure that every dollar expended for the infrastructure is paid. So that part is covered in a prepayment approach, and we also require the data center to provide a lot of security, irrevocable letter credit, and other types of large bank transactions to make sure that that is backed up. On the energy side, what we are doing is very different from anybody else really in the nation and in Virginia at this point, and that is the introduction of an affiliate to provide the energy off of REC's balance sheet in a wholly owned subsidiary where the benefits or any proceeds can flow up to the co-op, but that we work to isolate any risk of non-payment. So we are, in fact, pursuing a very different design, and in fact, our design includes putting each of the data centers in an individual service affiliate of their own, Hyperscale 1, Hyperscale 2, Hyperscale 3, and et cetera, so that they are further isolated from each other. And the intent is to make sure that the cost and the flows of the cost transactions are very clear, that the responsibilities for credit and bill payment are extremely clear. So those are some of the steps that we are taking. In terms of the rising tide of energy demand in Virginia, I can assure you that our G&T ODEC is also taking steps to make sure that ODEC has enough assets for the future so that the traditional load, if you will, can be protected by those physical generation assets. So, Kurt, glad to get on a call with you at some point and discuss in more detail, but we are doing some very different things here, and it is all designed to protect the members and to get the job done and to do a good job for these data centers so that the counties can recognize the projects.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kurt, for joining our conversation. We've got Karen up live next. A reminder, press 0, just like Karen did, to ask your question. Karen in Madison, you're live. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you very much for taking my question. I am new to the community. I just moved here a couple of weeks ago. And the property that I bought had solar panels already in place, but there's no solar company. I'm not sure how that works. Anyhow, is REC going to be affiliating with any solar companies? Do you have any plans for moving in that direction?
Great. Well, Karen, first of all, welcome to the region. Welcome to being an REC member, and I hope that you thoroughly enjoy Madison County. So with regard to the solar array, which could be on the ground or could be a roof mount, with regard to that array, there are models where there are, solar companies that lease those systems. It's possible that the property that you're on, possibly that was installed by a previous owner. So you would own that system now as the owner of that property. REC has I think a very equitable and fair program of interconnecting with members. We have over 3,000 members that already have solar on their homes or businesses. We are glad, Karen, to come out and actually send a team out to come visit with you if that would be helpful. What we do with respect to solar is to offer a very strong net metering program where the power that you generate offsets the retail price of electricity. We go a step further. We allow you to roll over energy credits from month to month and even beyond the end of the year, which means that in the shoulder months, if you might be generating more power, we give you the full retail benefit of that the next month or the next month. So I think we have a really strong program. A lot of the members have invested in solar. We're glad to send our team out. You asked about getting further involved in that. We do provide a lot of consultation with regard to kind of assisting members with solar. We also work with members to be able to buy solar from a community solar array where they don't actually have to make the investment. So if they want the environmental attribute, they can simply buy solar in 50 kilowatt hour blocks. So we have a number of programs. We have solar calculators, and more than anything, just glad to send some of our electrical team out to take a look, collaborate with you, make sure everything looks all right for you at your electrical service. So we're glad to follow up, Karen.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Karen. Love that program, John. Thank you for speaking to that. All right, we have Ron before Justin, Larry, and Mary. Ron in King and Queen, you're live right now. Please go ahead with your question. Ron? All right, maybe walked away from his phone. Ron wants to know, why can't the power be run underground to help with power outages during storms?
Well, Allison, thank you for reading Ron's question. So the REC does operate a lot of underground system. In fact, of that 18,000 miles, nearly 50% of it is actually underground. Most of it is in planned and developed subdivisions in areas of higher density. For the most part, in the kind of wide open spaces, the lower density rural areas, I mentioned kind of our average density is about 10 member accounts per mile, but that varies greatly to very high density in certain pockets and much lower density in some of the most rural reaches of our service territory. So we do utilize underground power lines in some areas. In many cases, members might have it from the pole. If it's an overhead system, a pole out at the road, it might be underground up to their home for aesthetics or other reliability benefits. But the big cost there, Ron, the big issue there is really around the initial capital cost. Actually, there's a couple of issues. One is the initial cost is quite substantial, and secondly, the cost of modifying the system in the future is also quite expensive on an underground network. And I would say third, while the cables and the systems have gotten much better in the last 10 to 20 years or 10 to 15 years, the longevity of the underground system still doesn't quite match up to an overhead grid. All that being said, if for instance you are interested in the line from the pole to your house being converted to underground, we're glad to come out and take a look at that and provide estimates for what that work would look like. Allison, again, thank you for reading Ron's question.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. All right. A similar one probably from Justin up next in Warren County. Justin, you're live right now. Please go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, I want to appreciate you taking the time to speak to the membership today. My question leans more towards the accountability side of things, which you guys kind of touched on earlier. Just out of curiosity, I live in an area that's more remote out in Warren County, which we've been here since 2020. And quite frankly, I've never lived somewhere where there were as many outages as I've experienced here. Period of time. My question is there any sort of plans or even maybe a thought process behind some sort of a way to track these types of events and then, maybe once it gets past a certain threshold, it comes some sort of a guarantee for the customer. So like what AT&T does with their service guarantee. A general question about that, because it seems to be a pretty big thing out here where I live. And I know that there's some folks that are a little bit older probably and have a little bit of medical equipment. They must have to have the electricity to run. So thank God I'm not in that situation, but just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Justin, thank you for being on the call tonight. And first of all, my apologies and our apologies for the outages that you've had to endure in Warren County. We are absolutely all about accountability. I did mention that value earlier this evening, and we do a lot of reliability tracking. We can actually work with our engineering team to kind of pull up your account information and go back and look at the circuit that you're served off of and look at its reliability history over the last months or even years. With some of the new metering technology that we are going to be rolling out soon, that will get even better, where the system is helping us track that even at a closer level. But our intent is not that you would endure that many outages and that they would be a much more rare or infrequent event and predominantly associated with like a severe storm or something. So we do not per se at this point offer a guarantee other than I can guarantee you that we will follow up specifically with you and any other members that contact us about reliability and take a look at the circuit, make sure that it's cleared, make sure that if we have a vegetation issue that it's addressed, and if we need to take measures to update the infrastructure that might be the cause of that. So thank you for sharing that. I believe we have your contact information, and we are very glad to follow up and try to get to the bottom of what might be driving those issues for you and your neighbors. Thank you.
Yes, we absolutely have your contact information. Thanks so much, Justin, for joining us tonight. All right, Larry, Mary, and Alan. Larry in Green, you're live right now. Please go ahead with your question.
Hello, thanks guys for doing this for the community. I had a couple of questions, and the last question is something I'd also like to ask. My power seems to blink more than once, like per day, it seems like. It's kind of annoying. A lot of times, like the modem has to reset and stuff like that. So I'd be interested in having somebody check this area of Greene County, because I've heard other people in the neighborhood complaining the same thing. My next question is about solar panels. That kind of a topic that was mentioned earlier. I would like to put solar panels on my house, but on the south side of my house, there's a lot of trees. And I was wondering if, since y'all have a tree company for clearing the pathway for the lines, if that's something y'all could help with so that solar panels would be more viable at my location. And my last question is about, do y'all come out and do site surveys to check how efficient your house is and give recommendations on things that would improve efficiency?
Great. Larry, thank you for those three areas. First, again, the apologies for the blinking. That should not, of course, be a daily occurrence. We're glad to take a look. That almost makes me think there might be some type of loose connection or something associated with if you have an air conditioner or a heat pump that might be starting. Sometimes the length of the service can create a flicker associated with that. So we're glad to follow up and take a look at and can even put a voltage recording meter on the home to make sure that we monitor it for a while to see what the duration and if there's any type of consistent frequency that would help pinpoint what might be driving that issue on power quality. For solar panels, we're glad to work with you on like the solar calculator to size the panels for your home. Provide any guidance around that. We can provide you historical energy consumption, which can help you kind of pick the economic right sizing. We don't specifically do the tree trimming for the panels. If it's near where your overhead service line enters the home, we're glad to come out and take a look. We can even drop the service if you're going to have a tree trimmer come out and do some work, and we might even be able to provide a referral on some tree companies that work in that area. But that's probably one that our team needs to take a little bit closer look at to see how we could help you on that. On the energy efficiency, yes, we do have a very strong energy efficiency advisory program. We will come out to your home at no cost to you. We'll do basically a walkthrough audit. We'll look at your consumption history in the winter and the summer, and we can certainly provide recommendations around that. We even have a few programs that allow members to make some weatherization and some other improvements and pay that back on their power bill over time. So very glad to follow up on that. We've got your name and contact info, and Larry, we will be back in touch very shortly.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. Thanks, Larry. All right, we have Mary and Fakir up now. Mary, you're live. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, my question is related to outage reporting and when the power does go out. Most of the time, I will say thank you very much. It comes on in my area, at least, very quickly. But we've had two in the past 6 months that have been over 24 hours. One of them was 2 days. And in the beginning, we were told, okay, it'll be on in a couple hours. And then it was, okay, 3 more hours. And then it was, okay, it'll be tonight. And then all of a sudden, it was tomorrow night. The second time, that was in February. And the second time, most recently, we were told it would be a couple hours. And I don't mind not getting times. Like if you say it's undetermined, we haven't sent a crew out yet, great, no problem. But once you give us a time, then we're counting on that time, and it helps us plan. Do we need to take stuff out of the refrigerator, put it in the cooler? Can we leave it there? So to have the first time given be about 2 or 3 hours away and end up being 36 hours is where we struggle with not knowing how to handle our preparations that we have to do. And this last time even, on the map, there were 2 overlapping outages at my address. When the first one was cleared in a bigger area, we were told our power was back on, but it was not. So I had to put another outage in, saw that the other smaller one was still there, and then it got resolved the next day. So the reporting's been a little bit confusing lately, and it makes it hard to know what we should do, to prepare.
Mary, first of all, thank you for your feedback. The estimations around restore times, when we have a few outages, is generally accurate. When we get into, especially what happened in February, and you mentioned February, we had 4 really waves of winter storms that came through in February, and particularly in Fauquier County. Some of those were pretty much right on Fauquier and Culpeper County over in that region. And I'm glad you mentioned it in the second scenario, because I was going to mention a lot of times what happens when there is a recompute, if you will, on the restore time. It's just what you explained. You are part of a larger outage that has maybe hundreds or more members tied to it or associated with it. Our crews are on that larger outage, but we can't, at that moment, we weren't able to detect that there was another problem downline, right? Now that's not a totally uncommon occurrence, right? That happens especially in a ice or snow event where you have kind of a primary outage and then you have other damage underneath that. And you're right, the scenario that you spoke of can be one that's very, very frustrating, because we think we've restored to the bulk or the magnitude of the members, and we probably did when we got the circuit back on, and your home and maybe your neighbor's home might be on an individual tap that's still damaged and is, it's not a large outage at that moment. It's kind of filtered back in with dozens or even hundreds of smaller outages. So we do put a lot of work into assigning estimated restore times. It's our intent to not overestimate nor underestimate, but to try to get that accurate. And I apologize that those last couple of events were not within the time frame, not even really close. That first one especially not close to the original time frame estimate. I can tell you that one of the technologies that we are working towards is the deployment of a new metering platform that will proactively tell us when an account is on and off. And so in that second scenario where you're part of a bigger outage, with the new system, and it'll take us a couple of years to get it installed, but with the new system, we will know, even after a restore, we will know specifically if any pinpoint accounts, any individual accounts, even in a large-scale region, are still without power, and that will prevent the scenario where we believe it's back on and it, in fact, is a new outage. Thank you for taking the time to call it back in. We also realize that's an inconvenience, but thank you for doing that, because sometimes it takes that second call to determine the few or the regions that are left behind after a major region is restored. So, Mary, thank you for your patience on that, and we are focused on estimated restore times, and I believe we have some technologies that will help improve that, but it might take a few years to get those systems installed. Okay. Allison, back to you.
So much, John. Thanks, Mary. Alan and Culpeper up next with some questions you were just touching on, John. Alan, you're live right now. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Just a quick question. I think you actually may have answered it partly in the last caller. How helpful, I'm wondering, is it when we call in to report an outage? Is it something? Are we just being redundant? I was curious how smart your meters are, for instance. Do you already know when our power is out, or is it really helpful for us calling in to let you know?
Alan, great question, and yes, with Mary, I kind of partially addressed that. So today we're working on we're operating on an older version of what you would call advanced meters or smart meters, if you will. So we're able to ping the meters. We're able to send a signal down the power line to check the meter if it's off, but the meter doesn't automatically tell us the account's off. So when it's part of a larger outage, that scenario that I covered with Mary can exist where there's another outage underneath it. And so, yes, it is extremely helpful that you call in. I will say that those new meters that we're moving towards, and this is one of the reasons we're doing that, will proactively tell us the moment the power goes out and the moment it comes back on. And if your neighbors come back on and you don't come back on, we'll know that too. So please continue to call us. We do our best to, get to those calls and actually get you to an operator. There are other ways to kind of electronically report your outage if you have like a smartphone and it's powered up, or you have a cellular connection. But Alan, thank you. I think that's a big question that's on the minds of a lot of the members, and thank you for calling it in. I recommend you continue to do that. But we will be kind of upping our game substantially, very much, so to speak, with the new metering platform.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Alan. I cannot believe how quickly the time has passed here. Up next, we're going to go to Chris in Louisa right now. Chris, you are live on the line. Please go ahead with your question.
Oh, yes. I wanted, a few years ago, you sent out a flyer in regards to offering Internet in the future. What has happened with that?
Thank you for your question, Chris. And in fact, Louisa County is one of the counties that we've worked with Firefly, which is an Internet service provider. We have been aggressively building out the fiber system that Firefly is operating in 5 counties, and that includes Louisa County. And it should be available or nearly available at your home. And I'm glad to ask our director over broadband to look into our records and to give Firefly a call and find out if it's available, and if so, have someone reach out and see if that's interested in it. We already have well over 9,000 REC members that are connected to that system. There's a few thousand, about 3,000 or more, that are on a waiting list as the system gets built. So we are continuing to do that, and we are working with a number of other Internet service providers in a number of other counties to work with them to attach to the power system so that they can extend their systems. So it's our aim and it's our plan and our intent to be as available as possible. For the system where we've worked with Firefly to build the fiber, the co-op receives a lease for that fiber system, which provides positive revenue back to the co-op. And then for the regions and the other counties where an Internet service provider might simply be attaching to the grid, then REC, your co-op, charges an annual pole attachment. We published in our annual report that last year pole attachment revenue was just barely under $1.5 million. So just another way that we're working to leverage the grid to bring some value back. So, Chris, we're glad to follow up and find out if broadband is available at your home.
Excellent. Yes, very exciting. All right. Thank you so much, Chris. Let's go next to Paul in Hanover. Paul, you're live right now. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you. So I understand that the comments on ODEC that REC and their partners are looking at how we backstop energy supply, but I mean, even Dominion Energy's projections over the next 10 years show that we expected to not have enough capacity for the expected electrical consumption, particularly when the data centers are activated. So what is the actual strategy on how we have enough energy to support all of the REC customers, and what's the plan for how we're going to manage that when we expect that there will not be enough power to supply everybody when they need it?
Paul, thank you for the question. And yes, that we share the same concern that PJM has noted. It has been well written about. The General Assembly had JLARC, which is a kind of a review step coming out of last year's legislative session or the prior year legislative session that looked at some of the implications of data centers. But the projections are through PJM that energy supply and shortfalls could occur as early as next summer. And of course, it's something we should we should always be concerned about, but particularly it's exemplified by the data center loads. Let me put this in perspective. REC, the 182,000 meters, member owners, accounts, residential and commercial that we serve across 22 counties, we achieved an all-time system peak this past January. No surprise it was in that, single-digit temperatures at 1,150 megawatts. That's 1,150 megawatts. Today, and again, REC has an obligation to serve. We have an inbound load ramp of data center load that could potentially reach 20,000 megawatts in the next 15 plus years. So we're not talking about, a 10% or 20% increase. We're talking about 20 times the amount of energy consumption, and that's just the REC territory. We are one of the, more attractive regions for data center investment because of the land and the transmission lines and where the transatlantic fibers, cross and come up through Virginia. So Virginia has been, predominant with respect to data centers. It's been more in Northern Virginia. That epicenter is moving really into the REC territory, and this is a very serious issue that our lawmakers and our state agencies have to take very, very seriously. Of the issues is really been surrounding Virginia's legislation in 2020, the Clean Economy Act, and at REC we're all in support of clean energy, but we have a serious problem here with the scale and the ability for those resources to carry the day. And so Virginia is not getting the capacity built that it needs. The market is sending a very high price signal, but that generation is going to Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and that's one of the reasons you see Virginia and Dominion and others investing so heavily in transmission lines right now. It's basically to get to, natural gas power plants in adjacent states. This is a real serious issue for Virginia. It's a serious issue for REC. So we are calling to action for the state to look at emergency measures, to consider the implications of the crisis. And although we may be a member of ODEC and ODEC may have generation assets, when the market experiences a shortfall, the PJM market requires curtailments. That's essentially rolling blackouts. And that is not with respect to who owns what power plants. It's a regional curtailment that all members experience. So simply owning power plants doesn't while it can help on the supply side, it doesn't eliminate the risk of being part of a curtailment, which could happen regionally. This is a serious issue that we're looking at. We are looking at measures that we could take to help support more capacity in the Commonwealth, what could be done under the existing law, and desperately urging lawmakers to take action so that Virginia can put power plants where it needs them to meet the load obligation. So, Paul, very good question, a very serious issue, something that we have to watch very closely, and PJM has been very clear on the looming shortfall. Back to you, Allison.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Paul. And John, I am sure you're probably just where I am. Can't believe that we are running off the page here. These calls go so quickly, but I still want to, I know we took as many questions as we possibly could. I still want to give a moment here for you for a few closing remarks to bring us to the finish line.
Well, thank you, Allison, and thank you to the just fantastic questions and comments and concerns that were raised on this evening's call. And I, myself as CEO, and I know Chairman Shipe, who's on here, and our team members that are listening in, we've got a number of follow-ups, and we will absolutely be following up. And I can assure the membership that we are advocating at every turn with respect to rising energy cost and reliability, and ways to get serving those large loads accomplished. Allison, thank you for hosting the call, making it possible for us to collaborate and to engage with the membership. Chairman Shipe, thank you for your extremely wise leadership and the support of the entire board of directors as we move further and further into a more complex industry. And to our members this evening, just thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for being candid with me and with us on the call tonight so that we can adjust our approach where we need to and follow up to make sure that you're getting the kind of service that you need and the service that you deserve. So with that, thank you. Just know that we are not just working to keep the lights on, but we are working truly to build a stronger, smarter cooperative for many generations to come. Good evening.